All right, guys, welcome to another video. We're going to be doing something slightly different today. This is going to be checkmate practice. So pretty much there's a whole bunch of different types of mates here, and this is all for the purposes of learning, practice, and hopefully getting some of these patterns into our head. So in games, we can actually be better than we currently are. So this checkmate in one with two bishops, controlling a lot of the board. And the next two mates are also going to be checkmates with the bishops. So they'll build on each other and grow, which I quite like about the way light chess sets out their checkmating practice. So this is just going to be another checkmate. Just double checking that there's no other response I can give. Okay, now here, using the same sort of a technique, we find this move check. The king's completely unable to move as a result of this bishop also being here. And as a result, the bishop has to recapture the queen, and then this bishop can recapture that bishop. And once again, we have that same checkmating pattern of two bishops mating the king. All right, so now we have Bowden's mate. We have to find the best move. Who are we playing with white? So one would think this is in fact checkmate in one. So this kind of looks like a two bishops mate, except I suppose the difference is this time our bishops are working on different diagonals, which gives me the idea to take here with check, and after the recapture, take here. And we're sort of doing a crisscrossing pattern with the bishops, as opposed to a pattern where, you know, the bishops both occupy the same sort of direction. We're now looking at patterns where the crisscross can occur, which brings upon this idea as a sacrifice of the queen and a checkmate. So that's pretty cool. That's a Bowden's mate. Bowden's mate, somewhat like the bishop's mate. So here we go, we've got checkmate in one. If we are white, how can we get checkmate in one here? Sort of, again, similar to the Bowden's mate, but where one of your bishops is actually a queen, and therefore it takes up this square as well, the Balestra mate. Now we're over to the Arabian mate. This looks like a checkmate. Let's see that in a few different contexts. Now we do have this move, which is check. He can't take because he's going to be pinned to the king. He can't come here or here. So after check, he must move here. And then there is this check, which he must capture, which allows this, which is going to be that same exact pattern of the Arabian mate. So one other variation is after check and he comes here and we give this check. He could block that with this knight. But if he does that, we take the knight, and that also is checkmate. So that will work in all circumstances. Yeah, cool. All right, so that's the Arabian mate. Let's see it in another format. So how would you really characterize the Arabian mate? I guess you've got a knight that's going to hold a couple of very important squares, either these two maybe, or possibly these two. And then you deliver mate with, I suppose, the rook. So with that in mind, I mean, this move comes to mind, except that the rook is there. The rook is there, ready to defend. So this move comes to mind, but again, he then gets to scoot out this way. So what if we were to try and control this square? I guess he just is able to capture. It's one issue. If we take back, yeah, I'm not really seeing this. So what if we take this? He takes with his queen. Again, I'm not really seeing what the big deal is. If he comes here, I suppose then we can give this check. But he just simply captures. Okay, this is kind of difficult to me. I'm not seeing this one. Not seeing it. So how do we proceed? Arabian mate. Arabian mate. Let's have a look at the first couple once again. So it's a matter of using a rook on the 7th rank. In both cases, no, not in both cases. In this case, we used it on, here, but in both cases, we do have a knight that takes out these two corner squares. Is that correct? Was that what it was in the first example? So in the first example as well, it was the knight controlling the corner squares and then the rook doing the rest. Okay, same here. So we want to control the corner squares and then the rook can do the rest. So now we have Arabian mate number 3. I think we're going to want to have a knight here controlling these corner squares, which it could do from here. And then, we might be able to control the rest, but this seems different to me for the fact that he can get the knight out this way. Not only that, but the moment we take this, he can recapture it. I guess you got some time to think about it while I'm thinking about it. Is it a queen sacrifice? If he wants to recapture, he has to take with the rook. Then there is this check, which forces his king down here. I see. So I think I see. Maybe we do this, which is just capturing, forcing him to recapture this way. Then we can jump here and take out these two squares with a tempo on the king. The pawn will no longer be there, so it can't capture us. Which means he has to come here. We also control this square. We can jump our rook there, and that's going to be the answer. So we take, we check. He cannot escape, so he has to run here, and we give mate. All right, so that's the benefit. So here's a corner mate. That's just easy. We've got a rook here. Okay, let's get a corner mate happening again. So we are looking at a move like this, but that doesn't work as well as this, which comes with tempo. Check, he must take, and there's a corner mate. So in the corner mate, we have a rook that cuts off the king, and we just have another piece to provide check with, whether it be a knight or a bishop. Okay, now we're up to Morphy's mates. So I'm looking at giving a check, forcing him here, and then delivering a final blow with the bishop. That's a Morphy's mate. Let's see that in another context. Giving a check. When he moves out, we give the final blow. So check, he moves. Now, where do we want to actually move to? Is there any way that he could defend? Well, he can defend with, say, the pawn. So if he defends with the pawn, I think we want to maybe have our own rook here. So that's going to be check. Okay, he can't move the king, so he has to block. He can either block with the queen, but that doesn't help him. He can block with the pawn alone, and we can give another check. It's not going to be mate because he can take with the rook. So how do we get this to be a mate? There is this check. That allows him to come here, but then we can reapply the check, forcing him back, and then we can come down here, and then we'll get the mate. Yeah, that's going to be correct, because then he doesn't have the pawn to block with. Okay, we take the queen, not a problem. Give a check. And now, does it matter where we put as the rook? It's going to be check. He's not going to be able to move the king. His only move is this. Then we have this. I don't think it matters where we put the rook. We can choose any square. It's all the same. Very nice. All right, so we're down to Pilbury's mate. Then we're going to have Damianos and then lollies, and then that'll be it for this little session. Can always come back for more later. So Pilbury's mate kind of looks similar, except this one's a checkmate with tempo. So it's similar to Morphy's mate. But Morphy's mate, we had to check the king into a corner first. So this is almost looks like it could be a Morphy's mate. If we take, he has to take with the knight. We take back, the king moves, and we move somewhere to the side, check, he has to move back, check him again. That's sort of an idea. But now I'm saying that the Pillsbury mate, if we go back to the first one, it was with tempo that we moved the rook across. So, and that leads me to see this final rook here. So what if we just go check, he takes, check. If he moves, I guess we can bring the other rook across. Then he can bring his rook in. We'll give this check. I think that's got to be it. I think we're going to take there. And do we just bring this across? One issue there is that you can actually take. You could take that bishop. So perhaps we do play a move like this, check. And when he moves back here, we can check him again. He comes back here. And then check. And he has to take with the king. That's the thing. He actually has to take with the king. He can't take with the rook. And after he takes with the king, we can swing this rook over with tempo, with mate, after he gives up his queen. All right, so the Damiano's mate almost looks like a lobster pincer, but it's with a queen and a pawn. So here's another Damiano's mate. We can sack the rook, check. And then there we go. One more Damiano's mate. So what have we got here? He has to take. Then we can give a check, forces him back here. We can give a check again. He has to take again. We can give a check again. He has to go back, and finally we made him with the queen up here. So we sacrifice one rook, give him a check, sacrifice the other rook, give him a check, and then we mate him. It's Damiano. So we've got Lolly's mate multiplied by 3, and then we're done for the session. And it's little sessions like this that are going to really help. So Lolly's mate sort of looks like Damiano's mate. It's queen supported by a pawn. Give me the idea to advance the pawn. And the king basically has 2 options. If he uses this option, then it's going to be check and mate. So after this, the king really only has 1 option. But then we come here. And once again, there will be no defense at that point. So check. We come here. There's no way for him to defend this square. That move does nothing at all to prevent mate. So ultimately, we already know we want to get a queen here. So how do we do that? Is possibly by going with check. Okay, he could take with his king, but if he does, he's going to get mated. So he's more than likely to take with the queen. At which point we can pin the queen. He's most likely to either take the rook or do some other move and allow us to take. Which is also going to be fine because eventually we have our queen supported by our bishop if we need to. So I like that a lot. We can give a check. Okay, it looks like I've somehow gone wrong. This is what I had in mind. Check. Come up here. We can take the pawn. We take back. He's given us a check here. Okay, we jump out of the way of the check. Gives us another check. Well, all right, we'll take the rook. We'll take the bishop. He makes, the only move he can. And then we've got checkmate. So it says click to retry. Did I use more than 6 moves, did I? I did it in 8. All right, so there's a quicker way to do it, but what I calculated was not bad. It's just that there's apparently a quicker way. So I suppose it's probably this. Check, check. Yeah, and now we're going to use the queen and the bishop supported, which is the reason he could not take this way. But we're going to force him to come back. Check and check. So 2 different ways to get that final lollies mate. We'll leave this one here, and we'll come back in the next video with some more checkmating patterns. And then we'll come back in the next video to play an actual game. All right, thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me a lot to have the motivation to keep going. I mean, I'm practicing my chess anyway for my own purposes. Hopefully this is going to be helpful to people. I'd love to hear your suggestions if there's anything else you want me to do with the channel, and I've got ideas as well of what I'm going to do with it. Some actually important and exciting announcements coming up soon too. So do make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on them, because the channel at the moment is at its bare bones stage. It's going to be getting a fair bit more exciting over time. So do stick around, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.